G'day, Ben here from on3legs.com, and I'm just going to quickly show you how I set my camera up for landscape photography. Now I get asked a lot, what settings do I use? And I thought I'd share with you exactly how I set my camera up. Now I'm just going to show you my back screen so you can sort of get a feel for what I'm doing. Now the first thing that will probably surprise you, I actually shoot on Aperture Priority, and that sort of surprises a lot of people that I'm not shooting on full manual. Well, the reality is that I want to be able to control the depth of field in my landscape photography, so I choose Aperture Priority. The shutter speed's not usually as critical, so what's happening with that doesn't matter so much. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't matter at all. We certainly need to be keeping an eye on that at some stages throughout our photography. So I will shoot Aperture Priority. So if you can sort of see, there's different modes. If I just bring that screen up for you. So we've got A is aperture. If you've got a Canon, it's usually aperture value, which is an AV. Most Nikons are A for aperture, so it just depends on what camera you've got. You've then got M for full manual, P for priority mode, S for shutter priority, and then back to aperture. So it's that aperture priority mode that you want. So in that one you can see I've got the A set, which is my aperture priority. The next thing that I do is I want to shoot my aperture somewhere between f9 and f13. Now depending on how much light there is on the situation, typically f9 and f13 is the sharpest spot for this lens. Every lens is a bit different, but I would suggest if you're shooting landscape, to get the depth of field that you want, so everything is in focus, somewhere between f9 and f13 suits just about every single lens. This is the Nikon 14-24, and you can sort of get away with shooting it at just about any aperture and still get a sharp image with this particular lens. But you may not be as fortunate and don't have this particular lens, so I suggest try and keep between that f9 and the f13. That'll make your life really, really easy. As for ISO, I'll just bring that up. You'll sort of see that with the ISO, I've got it set on ISO 64. Now that's my base ISO for this camera. Yours might be 100, it might be 200, but I suggest go for your base ISO. As soon as you start bringing that up, you're going to start getting some grain and noise in your photos, so go for your base ISO at all times. And then your metering mode, you'll see that I've got it on evaluative metering. Now it's also sometimes called average metering, depends once again on the camera system. On my Nikon D810, it's evaluative metering, and as I just go through each of those, you'll see that's sort of like a spot metering, that is a center weighted metering, and then that evaluative or average metering, and that's the one that I typically use when I'm shooting landscape, because that's going to measure the light from the entire scene. Now looking at this scene here, you can see that it's quite bright behind the tower, so I might have to do something different or shoot HDR. If I just go across to the live view screen, just sort of give an idea of how I then use focus, I've got a really cool focusing trick for you as well. When I set my D810 up for landscape photography, I always use manual focus, and what I do is I use this live view screen. And if I just get rid of the crosshair off there, or the level, what I do is I zoom right in tight like this, and then I use the manual focus to make sure that I've got the focus that I'm after. And you can zoom right in and have a look, and then you can zoom out, and you know that you've got a nice sharp image. And then I leave it on manual focus, and that way I know that I'm not going to bump anything and that the focus is tack sharp. Being a landscape photo, because I've got that aperture at f9 to 13, everything's going to be nice and sharp, and so it's nice and easy for to set it up like that. As far as file type goes, let me just bring that up for you. If I just get back out of that live view and we go back in here, you'll see that I've got RAW selected. You can sort of choose any different thing in there that you want. I always shoot in RAW because I think RAW gives me the most options afterwards from a post-processing point of view. And then white balance you'll see is on auto, and we can go through all the different white balances, and I just have it on auto because I think that's the best way to do it. In fact, if I show you with the live view as I go through each white balance, you can sort of see how it changes the color of the picture, and by using auto I just don't have to worry about it. I can just leave it on auto, and then when I get back to post-processing it back at home, I can make adjustments inside of the software. So that's pretty much how I set my camera up for landscape photography. It's on the single shot. I use a remote, so I've got a remote. That's what this little aerial here is. I've got a little wireless remote on my keyring here. I'll just show you that. Just a little wireless remote, and that way I'm not touching the camera. This little rig on the side here, don't worry about that. That's what's recording my screen for you, so you can sort of see what's going on. It's got nothing to do with anything else except for bringing you a better quality video. But you can sort of get a feel for how I set it up, and how I get my camera ready for landscape photography. So hopefully that's helped you, get your D810 or any camera really set up for landscape photography. Now make sure, by the way, that you hit the subscribe button up here. I'd love for you to hang around and leave some comments below the video. Let me know what you thought of this video and if you found it helpful. Make sure you share it as well. Let other people know about how to set up their cameras. Cheerio.